Hello and good morning everybody, and welcome back to today's video of DIY investing. For today's video, I really just wanted to dive in and look at Bitcoin moving forward in the short term as well as the long term perspective. I know that there's a lot going on inside of the crypto space with altcoins popping off across the board, Bitcoin continuing to go up and up and up, and so I really wanted to kind of give you guys my analysis, give you guys some personal tips when it comes to trading these long-term cycles, and just give you guys my overall perspective with the market moving forward. Since I've been around to trade a number of these different cycles, I wanted to be able to share with you guys some of my own personal knowledge when it comes to actually being profitable in these times. Because there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to Bitcoin in their markets and how alts are actually going to perform against Bitcoin. Many new people that are getting into crypto or have only been around for a short many cycles, they oftentimes overexpose themselves to altcoins and that makes some very drastic changes to their portfolios only to see those portfolios get wrecked by Bitcoin either going up or going down. Today I just wanted to give you guys my personal analysis on what I'm expecting with things moving forward so that you guys can actually structure your portfolios in a more beneficial way to yourselves. If you guys like this video and want to see more of them, do myself a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates in the future. If you guys like my analysis and want to see more of it, do yourself a favor by clicking the invitation link in the description of this video, and there you're going to be able to get an access invite to my Discord server. Help me to get to 100 members. We're so close. I think we only need about 3. It would really mean a lot to me to hit that 100 mark in my total count for Discord. There's lots of people in there conversating and sharing very awesome charts, and I'm super excited for what's coming to crypto moving forward. With all that being said, let's jump right in the video today. Welcome back everybody to today's video. Today we are going to be diving right in with Bitcoin, giving you guys some short-term analysis as well as some long-term perspective that you guys can kind of indulge in and get my analysis with what I'm expecting moving forward from here. This is part 2 of recording this video. For whatever reason the file was corrupted and it didn't have any audio, so here we go back at it once again. We're going to start off by dropping it to a shorter time frame, giving you guys my thoughts with what I'm kind of seeing right now. Now, based off of this current consolidation, it looks as if we are about to get a trend reversal. What needs to happen in order for that is we need to break through this support at about just under 7,800 at about 77.80. This is what we need to see. It looks as if we're kind of getting a short-term double top. And to confirm, we need to break through this support level. Once we break through this support, I'm expecting something like this before we drop lower in the cycle. That was ugly. Let me do that again. And then I have a flip before we go lower. So something like that. Please forgive my artistic abilities, as everybody's childhood teachers would say. But this is what I'm going to be watching out for. It looks as if we're getting that trend reversal. Trend reversals happen whenever we make our first lower low, and that would happen if we can break through this support level that we have here. Because we're getting to a point where prices are extremely parabolic. It's looking less and less likely that this can sustain, especially because of the fact, like, look at this. You zoom out a little bit. This thing just went straight up. And if you count the Elliott waves, it looks something like this. A 1, 3, and then a 5 up. So I think that we're at that point where we will get a short-term pullback. Now, many people are in the kind of paradigm where this is going to be a big 40% correction. And to be honest, I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think that we've really experienced the significant blow-off top that we need to in order for this correction to truly, in order for this impulse to truly be over. Now, what I mean by that, and I'll drop it to a larger time frame, is the fact that if we compare it to previous cycles, I'll show you. I'll just go back and show you guys what I'm talking about. If we compare it back to the previous cycle we had, we're currently in this move right here, where we're breaking out of consolidation and accumulation, and now we're making our first major impulse. And so what we saw here was a very strong blow off top, followed by about a 40% correction. 40% sell-off, but that's not necessarily what we're seeing right now. I don't think that we're quite at that point yet. In fact, I think that we have to go a little bit higher before we do see that significant of a retrace. Kind of where I'm thinking that we are in this cycle of things is we're very close to that point, but I don't find that we're quite there yet. I think we have a little bit more. But taking a look back at the previous cycle, we had this nice accumulation, and this is kind of takes us to present time where prices consolidated sideways before we finally had a strong impulse back up. Now this takes us to the current cycle, and where I believe that we're at now is we're very close to that point, but we're not quite there yet. So this is our 1, this should be the top of our 3, and then I think we'll get a short-term correction back down, probably to about 65 before we have further impulse up. And then that would be our blow-off top, for example. But if we calculate right here, I'm expecting about a 20% drop. I think that it will take us back down to about 6,500 in that area before we start impulsing higher in this cycle to finish out our 5-wave. And where that 5-wave will take us, it's kind of hard to say. The next resistance is going to be about 10K. And let me pull up some fibs so we can actually see an more accurate mark. So about here at about 9,400 is going to be our first, or actually, we've got one at 9,400, 9,500, right around there. And then we have one up here at about 13,400. And so this is kind of what I'm watching for. If we get a super extended 5-wave like this, I find this less likely that this is going to happen, but it is possible. I find it more likely that we have a shorter 5-wave just because of the severity of this 3-wave impulse. There was lots of money being had in this time. And so what I'm watching for is about a 20% sell-off at the top of this 3-wave. Now, many people are expecting a 40% drop, which would take us down to about 5,000, somewhere right around that area. And I don't find that we're quite there yet. I don't think that we're going to break support of this 58 to 6K floor. I find that that's very unlikely, especially with how easily and with the least amount of resistance possible we broke through that major resistance. Everybody thought that we were going to stop and consolidate either below or right at this 6K mark, but we just blew straight out of it and went to about 8,400. And so I don't think that we're going to fall back below that barrier ever again, especially with the severity of how impulsive this last cycle has been. Now, with that being said, kind of what I'm expecting here, we'll have a short-term sell-off that'll look something like this. Take us down to this mark, maybe even something more like that. We'll have a sharp sell-off that'll take us down to this 80 or 6,500 floor, and then we'll have a bounce before we come up and hit this 9,500 area. Something like that. I think that this is what we can see in the short term. This 4-wave retrace might actually be even less severe than what this is showing. But I think for the rest of the summer, we're going to have relatively bullish markets to trade with. Now, this brings me to the next point in the cycle and what we can kind of expect moving forward. Because after the final 5-wave is when I'm expecting things to actually have their real 40% drop. I think that that's when we're actually going to see that major shakeout and the last opportunity to really buy cheap Bitcoin. Because kind of what we're seeing right now is markets are starting to pick up, but I don't think that in the 4-wave retrace we're going to have that drastic of a pullback, because the 4-wave is oftentimes the shortest pullback in all of the cycles. And especially with the severity of this impulse, there's still a lot of demand and value propping the prices up. So the severity of the retrace is probably not going to be super crazy. But with that being said, at the top of the 5, this is a very impulsive move. And so at the top of the 5, you will expect to see something very strong on the way back down. Kind of something that I'm looking at is a 50% drop from about this 9,500 area, or 40% I should say, takes us to about this floor at 50, 56, 58, somewhere right around there. I think that we're going to drop back down to this floor of about 58 to 6,000. Something that I think that we can expect after this final 5-wave impulse is a very sharp decline back down. Something like this where it just really shakes out the market. We drop super hard in this next cycle. And then that's really our last shakeout before we enter what I call reaccumulation phase. Now, what I mean by reaccumulation is the fact that what you had right here, basically the entire descending triangle, but we're just going to analyze from here over. what you had here was this distribution phase. Now, from all-time highs, you had the major corporations, you had the smart money, and the big institutions. They were shorting the market on the way down, and then they were buying up everybody else's fear that was buying on the way up, right? And so this is how they accumulated their Bitcoin. That's why this descending triangle reached so close to the end of its apex, is because they were in there accumulating all of the Bitcoin. And so they were holding the prices up at this 6K floor, and then just selling into everybody else's greed as we made these little bounces before we finally broke through. And then this is when they bought the major dip, and then that's why we're seeing such a strong impulse out. And so what happened was we had this stage, which was the distribution stage, and then we went into accumulation. And now that takes us to the current cycle, which is reaccumulation. And that's what we're going to see down here from about the top of the 5, wherever that takes us, into the floor of 6K. So with this reaccumulation phase that we're seeing right now, it's hard to say exactly what can happen. We could see a strong impulse on the way back out. One thing that is possible is this price is going to precede the Bitcoin halving, meaning that we're going to see impulsive moves towards all-time highs before the halving even starts with all of this new institutional money. I find that that's probably not the likely scenario. I think that we could see something like this where prices bounce and then we kind of trend up before starting the next cycle up. Kind of what we saw back in the day with this ascending triangle. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to see something exactly like that because I'm sure we won't. But it's kind of the same sort of pattern where you have this trend and we start creating this upwards trend. And then the bubble phase just kind of gets more and more parabolic as we go up in the cycle. Because keep in mind, guys, based off of the last couple cycles, the Bitcoin, we have these two little leg ups and then the Bitcoin halving in the second leg before we go super parabolic. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see the exact same cycle kind of play out. May 25th, 2020 is right here. So we do have some time. I think that we could see a parabolic push and then another drop on this trend line. So something we could see as far as this trend line goes is we could see a parabolic push up to 13K, maybe even higher than that, before we kind of drop back down to this trend line, ride the trend line before even going more parabolic in the next cycle. But May 25th, 2020 is about right here. And so that would line up pretty closely to what we've been seeing previously in the cycles. And I wouldn't be surprised if something like this kind of plays out once again. We go through this reaccumulation phase and then we start the real parabolic rises back up on the upside. But we're just going to have to watch and see. Based off the last two cycles, this is kind of the pattern that we do see, is these little leg ups on the way up before we start to actually go up to test this all-time high and break out in the next parabolic cycle and trend. So this is what I'm going to be watching for. I wanted to give you guys a quick update with what I'm seeing with Bitcoin, kind of how the accumulation is looking in my eyes and what we can expect moving forward. I want to give you guys a couple tips with what I'm seeing right now, and just some tips in general, because I've actually been around for a while. I got in spring of 2016. So I've been able to trade a number of these different cycles, and the cycles vary from time to time, but for the most part, they still stay relatively the same way. And so some tips I can give you guys, because I know a lot of members in my Discord got in around 2017, and some of them even towards the top, closer to 2018. And what advice I can give you in this time is just the fact that with markets going parabolic, we're seeing lots of money flooding into these altcoins. Don't get too overly invested in altcoins, especially when you start to see some major FOMO. Don't expect them to continue to just go up, because altcoins have massive parabolic runs, but they also have insane crashes on the downside. And so make sure you're taking those profits. Don't get greedy. Even if you see a coin where you took profits early and then you see it pump another 3 to 5x, just don't try and buy back into that. Don't feel discouraged, because there will be other opportunities to buy back. With Bitcoin especially, one of the worst things that you can ever do is over leverage yourself with alts, and then instead of taking profits, you kind of hold on to them. They come back down and crash, and then you lose a significant amount of those profits, only to see Bitcoin go up a number of different times, and then towards a huge move with Bitcoin. Because something you could see, guys, is Bitcoin makes its top, you don't sell your alts, and then you see Bitcoin consolidate and make 2 higher highs from here, maybe taking us to all-time highs before your alt bag really starts to take off again. And so just don't get too over leveraged in these alts. Make sure you're holding a little bit of Bitcoin at all times. Probably at least 40% in Bitcoin at all times. That's always a good number. Obviously, that can change when it comes to alt season. Right now, I have a significant exposure to alts, but that's also because altcoins are setting up for a better return on investment. So if you time the cycles right, you can actually profit significantly better. But this is what I wanted to share with you guys. Just don't get too over leveraged in these altcoins. If you get too over leveraged, you might miss out on a couple major Bitcoin rallies before your altcoins really start to take off. And so make sure you're taking those profits, because you can take those profits, dump it into Bitcoin, accumulate more Bitcoin, because that's always the big long-term goal, is to use altcoins to accumulate more Bitcoin. And if you're not doing that, then you're basically just accumulating worthless fiat, which isn't going to go anywhere. Even though I trade the dollar pair, I'm still looking to accumulate more Bitcoin in the process. And so it doesn't really matter which pair you're trading. All that really matters is the fact that you're buying more Bitcoin and you're accumulating more Bitcoin in the short and long-term future. So this is the tips that I wanted to share with you guys going forward with things. Don't get too over leveraged in alts. Make sure you're keeping a significant portion in Bitcoin at all times. Don't sell your long-term portfolio of Bitcoin. Make sure you're holding it throughout all the cycles, because you got to remember, guys, this is going to look like a little tiny blip in the grand scheme of things moving forward. This cycle is going to look very, 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 very small. And we're going to see a very impulsive move over the next 3 years. So with all these little swings in between, it does not matter. Don't feel discouraged if you didn't buy the bottom and you're watching everybody make profits on the way back up. You will have a second opportunity to buy, and that's going to be even more of a significant opportunity, because I think we'll consolidate here for a longer period of time before going back up. But anyways, guys, this is what I wanted to share with you. This is kind of my analysis with things moving forward, what we can expect with Bitcoin in the short term to long term future. These are really exciting times for crypto, and I can't explain to you guys how excited I am to just be a part of this and to see you guys grow your portfolios and to really see you guys mature as professional traders and analysts. It's an awesome time to be a part of cryptocurrency. We have so much new money flooding into this market. I mean, you got to look at it from this perspective. 2017 was insane. We saw so much profit potential. We saw people become millionaires in a split second with some of these cryptocurrencies. And what we had in 2017 was ICOs. I mean, we didn't really have a lot of institutional money flooding in. We had very small adoption over the course of that entire cycle. But what do we have now? We have new institutional money. We have CEOs, big institutions talking about crypto. Jack Dorsey, you have Elon Musk, you also have Bakkt, you have Fidelity, you have all of these great things. You have the Cash App, all of these awesome factors and fundamental reasons to be buying Bitcoin in this time. They're going to send this cycle so much bigger than anything we've ever seen. So be long-term greedy. Don't get too caught up with all the bullshit in between. Cycles happen. You're going to miss out on some, and you're going to profit immensely off of others. It's just what happens. So just remember, guys, be long-term greedy, as Hagen Lee would say. Remember that the cycle is a long process. It's a tortoise and the hare type of race. Don't be the hare. Don't get too stuck in your own head of scarcity tactics and a scarcity mindset. Remember that you have 3 years of upward trending markets to make a return on investment, and really just look to boost your net worth significantly in this time. So there's really no reason to get caught up in your emotions if you didn't buy the bottom, or if you're watching all of your friends and acquaintances make money on the way back up. You're going to have a significant time to buy. You're still having all of this amazing alt season to profit, so you're going to be able to throw money in alts. You're going to be able to make a lot there, and then with those alt profits, we're going to be able to be reaccumulating Bitcoin in the short term. So it's exciting times ahead. Don't get discouraged by yourself. Just be grateful that you lasted the bear market. Be grateful that you have this opportunity to begin with, because a lot of people don't. So with all of that being said, thank you all so much for the support. It really does mean a lot to me. It's awesome to see you guys conversating inside of my Discord, and it just really makes me happy that I'm able to kind of put this on for you guys, share my analysis moving forward, give you guys something to kind of indulge in, and just see what I'm going to be doing in the short to long-term future. I'm no expert by any means, but I do know enough that I can profit in this market, and I just have been around a while to know how these cycles play out. So with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.